Hey everyone, welcome back to VueVille. A few months ago, I reviewed my first 8 megapixel IP camera from Reolink, the RLC824A, which was a pretty decent dome camera. Reolink has continued to put out very unique cameras, and I have one such device for review today, the fully wire-free PTZ model with dual lens auto tracking called the Reolink TrackMix. Reolink has kindly provided a review sample of the TrackMix and the Reolink Solar Panel 2, which together make this setup 100% wire-free and self-powered. As always, we are going to look at the features, setting up the camera, battery performance, motion detection performance, video quality, audio quality, and of course, how it works with the VueVille DIY smart home automation system. In typical Reolink fashion, the TrackMix and Solar Panel 2 are well packaged and come with everything you need to get started. Just add a screwdriver. The TrackMix comes in the traditional form factor of a Wi-Fi PTZ camera. No surprises there, but Reolink has opted for a mix of metal and plastic for its construction. This is a departure from other Reolink cameras we have seen in the past, which were fully metallic. However, the camera doesn't seem to be negatively affected by this. I was a big fan of the RLC423 PTZ that Reolink brought out some time ago. While that was a single lens model, the TrackMix has a dual lens setup. The dual view lens gives it the ability to produce two different video streams simultaneously. A panoramic view from its wide-angle lens and a separate auto-tracking zoomed-in view from the close-up lens. This clever setup overcomes the biggest flaw of traditional PTZ cameras. When a single lens PTZ is auto-tracking by zooming into the target object, it is blind to everything else going on in the scene. This can lead to a costly mistake if valuable evidence of a crime is going on outside the zoomed-in camera's view. The front of the camera also houses the two IR LEDs, the floodlight LED, the day and night sensor, the microphone, and a PIR sensor for true motion detection. The TrackMix not only has infrared LEDs for night vision, but also a bright LED floodlight feature for color night vision. I found the LED to be bright enough for identifying faces up to a fair distance, but of course for a larger yard or area, you would need additional lighting. The Reolink floodlight is a great companion here as it can turn on automatically when any linked Reolink camera detects motion. The PIR sensor doesn't have a claimed range, but I would expect the standard 5 meters that other cameras claim. The rear of the camera has a speaker for two-way audio, and the same speaker is used for the siren feature. The built-in siren is also a good feature for scaring away intruders whenever motion is detected, or on demand through the mobile app. It's just loud enough to scare away, but it's not deafening. We find the microSD card slot at the bottom of the camera. It can take cards of up to 256 GB, which is more than sufficient. But what about the reset button? Where is that hidden? Reolink always finds a smart place to put it, and this camera is no different. Move one of the antennas down on one side and you will find an unnamed panel held together with screws. Remove these screws and you find not only the reset button but an on-off switch as well. Now that's a great place to put it. Finally, the single USB-C cable comes out through the top of the housing and through the wall mount. This cable can be used to charge the built-in battery either from AC power or the Reolink Solar Panel 2. Following the user manual, I plugged the camera into my mobile phone charger using the provided USB-C cable. After a short while, the indicator light on the cable turned green and we were ready for the rest of the setup process. Installing the camera and solar panel physically onto the test rig took just under 10 minutes. All the required plugs and screws were provided and I just added a microSD card. I plugged in the camera's USB-C cable, the female end, into the solar panel's USB-C cable, the male end. Finally, I turned on the camera using the aforementioned power switch. With previous reviews, I had to spend quite a bit of time planning out how to power the camera and how to run the PoE Ethernet cable to it. But the Reolink solar panel made all of that redundant, and the camera being Wi-Fi meant that there were no cables at all to route, install or bury. I couldn't find a web admin interface at the camera's IP address, so I decided to follow the default setup method, which is the Reolink mobile app. Since the TrackMix Wi-Fi camera does not have an Ethernet port, the only way you can set it up is using the mobile app and the voice guidance of the camera.
Welcome to Reolink. Please install Reolink app and scan the QR code on the camera.
First, I opened the Reolink mobile app and tapped the plus button at the top right to add the new camera. Secondly, I scanned the QR code on the top of the camera, which allowed the mobile app to read the UID of the camera, also printed on the top of the camera. Third, the app then asked for the Wi-Fi network details, which I entered, and it generated a large QR code. Fourth, the camera prompted me to scan the QR code on the app and then beeped as it connected to the Wi-Fi network.
Camera is connecting to your router. Please wait. Connection to the router succeeded. Welcome to Reolink.
Fifth, the mobile app then prompted me to set up a device password for the default admin account and finally loaded the dual view from the TrackMix. I formatted the microSD card, which had some data on it from a previous Reolink camera. And that's it, the camera was ready for use. So, opening up the Reolink mobile app shows the cameras connected to it, including the TrackMix. Sadly, the preview does not update automatically at this point. You need to tap it and open it up to see the live stream. Since this is a PTZ, let's look at that function first. Panning is easy and responsive. You can adjust the zoom level of the close-up lens as well as the speed of the panning. I like to keep the camera zoomed into the doorway by default, and the monitor point setting lets me do that. You can also set up preset areas of the scene that you can quickly jump to. Suppose you check in on your PTZ and see an unsavory character loitering about. Just hit the siren button to scare them away. What if you want to give them a few choice words too? Just hit the talk button and then tap to talk. Now you've got two-way audio to your camera from anywhere in the world.
And this is how the speaker on the camera sounds.
Works great. On to the settings now, located under the gear icon. The camera icon at the top shows the storage status, network info, and the other technical data. The battery menu item shows the charge level, and tapping on it takes us to the battery analytics section. Note that this camera would not load anything at this point unless the camera had access to the internet. The screen would then show a history of how many minutes the camera has used the battery. Tapping display on the main menu opens the video and image settings. You can adjust the brightness and shadow compensation, but I found leaving everything at auto works well. The camera has two streams. The main stream at a resolution of 4 megapixels, 15 frames per second and 4 Mbps bitrate, and the substream at a fixed lower resolution. Tapping audio on the main menu lets you control audio recording and the volume of the built-in alarm speaker. Tapping light lets you control the status LED, infrared LED, and floodlight behavior. You can switch off the PIR motion sensor, but I found that it's best to leave it on for reliable detection at night. Let's check out the smart motion detection now. The burning question I had was how exactly the TrackMix uses both the physical PIR motion sensor and the traditional software-based smart motion detection methods together. By default, both are turned on in the settings. I could not find a good explanation of how these features work together in the user manual or on Reolink's website. But from my testing, detailed a bit later on, I gathered that the two features work very well together even when it's totally dark. In the app, there are three settings which, when combined together, are very helpful for reducing false alerts. Firstly, you can set the detection zones for each type separately: person, pet, vehicle, or others. Secondly, you can also adjust the sensitivity of each detection type. Finally, and most importantly, you can define the minimum and maximum object sizes that should trigger an alert, again for each smart detection type: person, pet, vehicle, or others. By default, auto tracking is off, but I would keep it on, and it's nice that you can set it to track just persons and vehicles but not pets, for example. You can further fine-tune the tracking logic if needed, and even set a schedule when tracking should be on, say only when you're at work and at night, so it doesn't keep auto tracking your kids playing in the yard, for example. The camera does support pre-motion recording, but curiously doesn't let us adjust it. From looking at the clips, it seems to be around 8 seconds as well during the daytime, but a bit shorter at night. Finally, the advanced section lets you do some admin tasks as well as rebooting the camera. So let's look at the playback feature, where the camera uses its built-in NVR ability. Clicking on the playback button takes you quickly to the timeline where each motion detection clip is shown along with the type of motion detected. This is a great feature and helps to quickly scan for just the types that you are interested in, such as persons or vehicles. You can also drag the timeline selector to a specific point and just see the clips recorded at that time. Both the wide-angle lens and the telephoto zoom lens clips are played simultaneously, so you can see the entire scene at all times. I observed no delays whatsoever during playback, and that's partly also due to the great Wi-Fi I have from my unified gear. So how did the camera perform in our daytime and nighttime tests? So here's the daytime video, and as you can see, the video is clean, crisp, and what I would expect from a 4 megapixel camera. As mentioned earlier, I have the monitor point set on the doorway, which is just under 5 meters away from the camera. The TrackMix correctly identified the subject as a person and immediately sent out a push notification saying a person was detected. The close-up lens started tracking the test subject accurately and without fuss. At no point did it lose the subject. I would love to do this test again in a big open space, but at the moment I don't have that luxury at my temporary rental. After the post-record duration of 8 seconds, the camera returned to its monitor point. At night time, the camera switched from the infrared LEDs to the LED floodlight as soon as motion was detected. So this is how we get the color night vision. The video quality is very good and the LED floodlights are bright enough to ensure good exposure without washing out the face. The camera correctly tagged the alert as a person detection. After the post-record duration of 8 seconds, the camera returned to its monitor point and switched to infrared. Battery life has been excellent all through the 3 months that I've been using the camera, which included late winter and spring. The lowest I ever saw the battery was 98%, and that too after a few cloudy days with hardly any sunlight. Otherwise, the Reolink Solar Panel 2 always kept the battery topped up at 100%. The Reolink Solar Panel 2 is the latest revised version that improves on the original significantly. The new version has a maximum output power of 5.8 watts and is weatherproof with an IP65 rating. As we saw earlier, it keeps the battery topped up comfortably at 98 to 100%, and that's not even in a location where the camera gets all the sunlight available. Very impressive. I tried to add the TrackMix Wi-Fi to the Reolink integration in Home Assistant, but it failed to connect. I tried giving the camera internet access, hoping this would do the trick as with the desktop client, but nope, didn't work. I'm not too surprised though, because it's a battery-powered camera and the Reolink integration notes do say clearly that such cameras are not supported. Some digging suggests the lack of an HTTP API is the culprit here. The PoE version of the TrackMix, however, is supported by the Reolink integration in Home Assistant. So if Home Assistant integration is important to you, go for the PoE version instead. Looking at the positives, the TrackMix is able to work without the cloud or even an internet connection. That's a must-have feature in the VueVille Home. It's got great battery life, which is very important for a 100% wire-free security camera. The Solar Panel 2 is a perfect companion here. AI smart detection works very well with the auto tracking to ensure the camera is locked on to the target subject and keeps them in view at all times. The dual lens means you still get to see the bigger picture at the same time. Having both infrared and a standard floodlight LED gives you great illumination at any time of the day or night. The motion detection settings are very customizable and greatly reduce false alerts. You can also interact with whoever is at the camera using two-way audio or even scare them off using the siren feature. For the best data privacy, there's also a microSD card slot and built-in NVR feature for fully local storage. Finally, the mobile app is rock solid and is a treat to use. If you give the camera internet access, you can also get quick and reliable push notifications. On the things that I don't like side, the camera has to be on the same network or VLAN as the mobile app for initial setup and ongoing use of the mobile app. Since the mobile app is the only way of setting up the camera, this was a bit annoying. You can use the Reolink desktop app, but that requires giving the camera internet access. The internet is also needed for the battery analytics and push notifications to work. The camera doesn't support OnWeb, RTSP or an HTTP API, so it doesn't integrate with Home Assistant, which was disappointing. There are no physical alarm or audio connections either, but that's anyway a rarity in most cameras today. There does seem to be a small bug in that the preset points don't remember the zoom level of each point when you set them. Another minor quibble is the missing PTZ auto tour feature between preset points. I use this a lot from the RLC 423 PTZ days. The Reolink TrackMix is a very good Wi-Fi PTZ with auto tracking and smart motion detection. The dual lens feature is the biggest differentiator here. Together with the superb Reolink Solar Panel 2, the TrackMix is a great 100% wire-free choice for areas that you can't run Ethernet to. But since this is a Wi-Fi camera, the obvious downside is the lack of OnWeb, RTSP or an HTTP API, which means there's no integration with Home Assistant. It does support Google Home and Alexa voice assistants though. Of course, we knew this going into the review as smart home enthusiasts, but it's worth noting. If you absolutely do need RTSP streams or Home Assistant integration, go for the PoE version of the TrackMix. So what do you think about the TrackMix? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you found this review useful and subscribe for more DIY home security and 100% local only self-hosted smart home videos.